Hello friends, welcome back to the shop. It's Tuesday evening here. Very unusual for me to be doing a Tuesday evening video, but I had, on my last filter challenge video, there were several comments that indicated some degree of confusion regarding what I was trying to say in the last weekend chat video that I did, in particular regarding the Dr. Pearl filters and what I did with the paper and things like that. So I wanted to make a sort of addendum video to that one to sort of set the record straight about some of these things and to hopefully give you a little more information. So I want to start off by saying what I did say in the previous videos, and I hope you've all heard, but I'm going to say it again just to make this very, very clear. If you like using filters, use filters. I mean, I don't have any stake in this whatsoever. I don't seem to like them, based on what I've done so far. They're not doing anything for me. But that's just my experience, and that's all that I was trying to do with this filter challenge. What I laid out in the beginning was that I was going to take 4 different types of filters. I was going to use one pipe, one blend, and I was going to compare those 4 different types of filters and see if there were any benefit for me that I could find, and any differences that I could talk about that may help one of you guys in terms of choosing a filter type or maybe getting better use out of your filters. So that's all that was intended here. This is not an attempt to say filter smokers are wrong or non-filter smokers are right. I don't care. I just want to understand them, experience them, share that with you, and then move on. But I do want to make sure that the facts are out there, the facts that I've uncovered, and that's important to me. That's one of the reasons I make these videos and started this channel, was to share information. And I've gotten a few comments that make me believe that people are feeling a little bit defensive about what I'm saying, and you shouldn't. I really don't mean to attack you in any way or to say that you're wrong. I just want you to have the information. So a few things that came up that I wanted to directly address, and I'm actually going to attempt to do a little experiment with you tonight, so we'll see how that goes. Someone said that my sample size is small. I'm only using one pipe and one blend. Well, yeah, that was the original intent. That's exactly what I planned to do, and that's what I'm doing. Will the filters work differently in another pipe? Yes. Will different filters work different? Yes. Will different blends behave different? Of course. But I can't test every blend in every pipe with every filter because I've got limited time on this earth. And I don't care to do that. In my opinion, if I have to start mixing and matching pipes and filters and tobaccos to get the right smoke, there's something wrong in that equation. I want to have the pipes I like, the tobaccos I like, and go on. So, I have pipes that I know smoke certain things well. So this, for example, which I should have mentioned already, is it's actually a lane limited Crown Achievement pipe, and this pipe smokes Virginia's very well for me. And what I'm smoking right now is Jackknife Plug, a Virginia Dark Fired Kentucky mix, which is really quite good. And I don't smoke it often, but it's an occasional treat that I really enjoy. So yeah, I will match pipes and tobaccos, but I'm not going to try 6 different filters in every pipe to try to figure out if I can't, because they're not filtered pipes. But I don't want to do that. I enjoy this tobacco in this pipe, and I'm happy with that. So I appreciate everyone's concern that I might be missing out on something, but I'm okay. Now, the more technical points that I wanted to address regarding the comment I made about the size of the Dr. Pearl filter. I think this is really important, and I think, for me it's not. I mean, once I'm done with this, I'm not going to care about it. But for you guys that are using these filters, I want you to understand that there is an issue if the filter doesn't fit into the filter chamber. If there's space around it, that's not going to allow the filter to work properly. Now, a couple people said, oh, they expand. One person said if you would just have smoked it for 20 minutes without the paper, you would have seen that it would have been fine. No, I used two Dr. Pearl filters and smoked both of them twice. So I smoked them first bowl, clean filter, wide open draw, as if the filter wasn't there. As someone said, it was an excellent full-flavored smoke. Let it sit for a little while, refilled the pipe, smoked it again. Same thing, wide open draw, full-flavored smoke. Got rid of that filter a few days later, put a new filter in, same exact thing. The second smoke, same exact thing. So they're not expanding for me in this pipe. They're not expanding enough to seal. Maybe in your pipe they seal right off the bat. That's fine. Maybe they do expand and seal. Great. But check it. Make sure that it is actually doing what you think it's doing. Because if it's not sealing, it's not filtering. Now, someone took me to task with this and said, well, it is filtering. It doesn't have to seal to filter. Well, that's not true. I mean, if you believe that, you just don't understand the basic physics of how airflow works. If you have a straw and you're drawing through it, air's coming through it. If you stick that straw into a drink and draw through it, you're pulling liquid through it. Great. If you don't seal your lips on it, if you leave a space around your lips and the straw, you can draw through it all you want. You're not going to get any liquid through it because the resistance is higher inside the straw because of the liquid. The air takes the path of least resistance. It's going to come around the outside of the straw, and it just simply won't work. The same thing is true with the filter. It was pointed out that the filters are permeable and that I showed that. Yes, I did. What I showed was if you take a filter and you close it off with your finger and you seal it with your lips and draw through it, you can get a small amount of air. That air is coming through the sides of the filter, which are permeable. They're made of paper. But you have to seal both ends for that to happen. If it's sitting out there in space, air's not going to magically start going into the side of the filter as you're smoking it. If it's sitting in the chamber and it's not sealed, it's not going to work. The other point that was made was that when you take the filter out, it's even though it doesn't seal and it moves around, it's still wet and it's still brown, and therefore it's filtering. If you put anything into the airway of a pipe and you smoke the pipe, it's going to get wet and it's going to turn brown. It's sitting in the smoke stream. That's going to happen. That doesn't mean it's filtering. The balsa inserts do that. Now, I think the balsa inserts to some extent do filter because they do it so well. They pull so much moisture out, and with that moisture is coming some of the stuff in the smoke. But this piece of paper sitting in your airway is just it's just not filtering it unless it's sealing to the sides. Now, to kind of bring this home to you, I've done some math, so buckle your seatbelts. I'm sure everybody loves math as much as I do. And I'm going to put an image up here and kind of talk you through this. It's really simple. It's just basic high school algebra, but I think it makes the point. So at the top of this picture, you'll see there's two circles, one inside the other. The outer circle is representing the outer diameter of the Peterson filter. So we're going to call that a good fit, at least in this pipe. And I measured that, as I said, and that's 0.320 inches for the filters that I've measured. The inner circle represents the Dr. Pearl filter, which, as I mentioned in the last video, has a smaller outer diameter, and that's shown here as 0.304 inches. And that's been measured on a couple of filters as well. All right, if you look at the difference between those two, that shaded region between the two circles, that's the gap that the air can move through. Now, basic high school geometry, the area of those circles, the cross-sectional area of the filter, is going to be pi times the square of the radius being half of that outer diameter value that I have. So to calculate the area of that gap, all you have to do is subtract the area of the Dr. Pearl filter from the area of the Peterson filter. And you can see I've done those calculations there in the middle of the image, and that comes out to be 0.007 square inches. Now, that doesn't really mean a lot. It's a cross-sectional area of an annulus around the outside of the pipe. So to just sort of bring that home and better explain it, what I've done is I've just rearranged that area equation to allow me to calculate the diameter. So area is pi times the square of the radius. The diameter is going to be 2 times, because the radius is half the diameter, 2 times the square root of the area divided by pi. And when you do that calculation with 0.007 inches, the answer you get is 0.094 inches. So that's very close to 1/8 of an inch. It's actually 3/32 of an inch, slightly more than 3/32 of an inch. And I've got 2 circles there, and these are, all the drawings on here are to scale. They're scaled up tenfold to give you an idea of the relative sizes. And, 1/8 inch is a reasonable airway to drill in pipes. I mean, it's narrow in my opinion, but it certainly is a reasonable airway. And the gap that you have around the filters is not very much smaller than what you would have in an 1/8 inch drilled pipe. So, obviously, if that filter is leaving that much space around it, you're going to have air pulled around it. And if that happens, you're not going to have air going through the filter. All right, so how can we prove this? This is a theory, and I freely admit it's a theory. It's a theory that explains the experience that I've had. It explains the people that are telling me they get an excellent full-flavored smoke using a Dr. Pearl filter, even though it doesn't seal. The reason for that is it's not filtering. How can we decide whether or not it's true? We've got to run an experiment. So what I've done, and I don't know if this is going to work, I hope it's going to work, but I've got my last Dr. Pearl filter, unused, unmodified, fully open. It's going to be hard for me to show you this. Oh no, I've almost lost it. It's going to be hard for me to show you this because it's very tiny and I don't have any tweezers here. But what I have here is a little tiny piece of plastic that I've cut, a circle of plastic that I've actually cut out of one of these, if any of you guys get your shirts dry cleaned, you know what these things are. They're little collar protectors that they put into the shirts. So I've cut that out to the diameter of that little blue disc. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this open filter, I'm going to use some super glue and that little plastic disc, and I'm going to glue it over the blue plastic insert in the end of the filter, and I'm going to try to seal off the filter. So give me a moment to do that. And once I start this, I'm going to be careful not to stop the video because I don't want anybody to think that I'm pulling any shenanigans here or anything. I'm trying to do this as honestly as I can. I'm just trying to get the piece of plastic placed. Okay, that is in place now. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see any light glinting off of that. Maybe if I can get a flashlight on it. Sorry, I can't really tell if you can tell about that. But we're going to leave that super glue set up for a little bit. And once it sets, we're going to try to blow through it. Not before it sets, because I don't want to glue it to my lips. And assuming that we've blocked off airflow, we're going to put that filter in the pipe and we're going to smoke a bowl of tobacco with it. If my theory's right, and it might be wrong, but if my theory's right, what will happen is I'll be able to smoke the pipe normally. It'll smoke just fine. I'll smoke it for, let's say, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then we'll take the filter out and we'll see what it looks like. Okay? So, in the interest of time and not making this a ridiculously long video, I'm going to give this a good 10 minutes to cure, mainly because I don't want to have uncured cyanacrylate in the airstream when I'm smoking the pipe. So I'll give this 10 minutes to cure, and I'll come back and I'll show you that I can't blow through it and all that kind of stuff before I put it in the pipe and load it up, and we'll give it a try. See you soon. Alright folks, so 10 minutes has passed. The glue seems to be completely cured. It's not sticking to my finger. And I'm going to see if I can get this focused for you. And maybe you'll be able to see there's a little bit of a sort of a glaze on that there. The glue has actually become a bit opaque, so it's easier to see now. And when I did this, I did put adequate glue on that sunk into that blue insert and through the holes, so I think this is completely sealed. And when I try to blow through it, I can't get any air through it. So this is doing the job. So what we're going to do now is we're going to load this blocked filter into the pipe, and I'm going to try to keep everything in your view, and I'm going to not stop the video until after I finish smoking this, just to make sure that you see everything. So we're going to put the blue end in, just like we've done in the past. We put the filter into the pipe, put the stem into the pipe, and the draws are fine. It's moving a bit more. That's locked. It's locked. So we're in good shape with this. I'm going to go ahead and load in some of this lovely Stokeby Luxury Navy Flake, which I am quite used to now. And I have to admit, this isn't the only thing I've been smoking, obviously. You've seen me smoking other things, but it's been a good experience. And I think I've said it before on YouTube that I think there's a lot of value in smoking a tobacco you don't like. It forces you to pay attention to things. It forces you to try to pull out what you do like and try to find some enjoyment. Certainly not something I'd recommend regularly for extended periods of time. But, if you get a tin of something that's not quite up your alley and you don't think it's going to improve with age, muster through. It's worth it. You'll be happy in the end. Okay. There we go. So now we will light the pipe. So it's smoking beautifully. Even with a blocked filter. Now this is going to tell us a couple things. So if it's true that the filter is going to expand as I smoke, this should completely seal up. I should not be able to smoke it. And I'm now going to start a timer. If I can find it on my watch. 15 minutes. So for the next 15 minutes I'm going to ramble and smoke the pipe, and if you'd like to just skip forward in the video, by all means do. So I'm going to talk more this weekend about the meerschaum filter and sort of give you kind of a summary of what I've learned about this and my thoughts and all that. But maybe I'll just talk a little bit about it now, just to kind of give you my current thoughts. And they're good. I've enjoyed the experience, as I've said earlier. I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish, which was to find out if filters were for me. And to be able to share that learning experience with you. And, I'm pretty certain now, and I don't think this is a spoiler for this weekend, because I think anybody that's watched the previous videos understands where I sit right now. I'm not going to be using any more filters. I'm just simply not going to do it. Because I've been smoking pipes for over 30 years without filters. And I know what tobaccos I like. And I just don't see a need for it. I don't get tongue bite. I don't get wet smokes. And I have to believe that that's because over the course of 30 years I've just sort of developed techniques that work for me. And I probably choose the tobaccos based on that as well. You know, I'm not going to, I don't smoke very many aromatics, as you know. And the ones I do tend to be the more natural aromatics. They're not very wet. But I do smoke a fair amount of flakes and plug type tobaccos, and a lot of people say that they have to let those air out for a while in order to smoke them. And I've tried that and never really seen much of an effect of it. I've never had a tobacco that I couldn't smoke without airing it out. So, you know, it's another one of these personal preference things. If you like to air out your tobacco, air it out. That's great. But to me, it doesn't make much of a difference. And that might just be because of the techniques that I've developed for lighting the pipe and for, you know, smoking. I don't get benefit between not aired tobacco and the tobacco that has been aired out. But that's me. And the one thing that I know for certain in the world of pipe smoking in fact, I'd venture to say the only thing I know for certain is that you have to do what works for you. If you're enjoying your pipe, if you're having fun, if you're happy with the way things are going, then you're doing it right. And I don't care if you're smoking the cheapest corncob pipe you can find with Captain Black in it. If you're happy with it, you're happy with it. I don't remember if I when I started off the filter videos, if I talked about the fact that I did actually use a filter at one point. My first pipe that I got was a Dr. Grabo from a drugstore, and it came with a little box of filters. And I, at the time, was dumb enough that I just thought all pipes used those. I just thought that was part of pipe smoking. And those, I think, even you know, diehard filter smokers will admit that those little Dr. Grabo filters and Medco filters, or the ones you get in the Missouri immersion pipes, they're useless. They're just, if you've ever tried to unroll, they're just a roll of paper. And it was annoying, you know. You got to take them out. You get gunk all over your hands, but I probably used 3 or 4 boxes before I actually got enlightened and realized I didn't need to use them. I can't remember if it changed the actual tobacco experience for me. I don't think at the time I was really noticing very much. You know, I told the story about how I would walk with the pipe. That was one of the reasons I started. Was I was smoking cigars, and it would be winter, and it was just too cold to, you know, I'd walk like an hour or so, and it was just too cold to keep your hand out with a cigar in it. And the pipe was a nice winter companion. So I wasn't, you know, sitting back and contemplating every puff and trying to pull out flavors and stuff like that. it wasn't long after that that I got introduced to better tobaccos for me, better pipes. Well, I shouldn't say better pipes because there's nothing wrong with Graybos, but higher end pipes, non-drugstore pipes, let's put it that way. And started reading the old internet news group back when Usenet was hopping. I think Usenet still exists, but it's probably like 4 people still using it. But it was alt.smokers.pipes, if I remember right, and that was a great news group. And to be fair, it was a bit snobby, and you know, I didn't have any pipe smoking friends. We didn't have YouTube. That was the only way I had of interacting with pipe smokers, and I picked up some of that snobbiness, to be honest. I like to think I lost it. And you know, I enjoy over-the-counter blends like Carter Hall and Mixture 79 and all that, so I'm certainly not a snob about tobaccos, although I do despise Captain Black. And it's funny, I smoked it for probably about a year straight before I tried other things, and now I just can't smoke it. But it is supposedly the most popular tobacco sold today, so go figure. It just shows you how little I know and just how different people are and how their experiences are different. Just checking my timer here. We've got 6 minutes and 40 seconds to go. This is probably almost as interesting as one of my sanding videos. Speaking of sanding, I know I've been promising you guys shop videos and have not been delivering, and I apologize for that. I was on track to get that started, and then my wife got sick and work continued to be busy, and I just haven't had the time. But it's something that I very much want to get back to. Now you can see this is smoking like any pipe. Now there's somebody out there that's going to say you only smoked it for 15 minutes. If you would have smoked it for 20 minutes, the paper would have magically expanded, and then you would. And if I smoked it for 20 minutes, somebody would say 30 minutes. Like I said, when I did the 2 Dr. Pill filters that I did as part of the challenge, smoked both full bowls in both of those, and to get a full bowl in this takes me a good 40-45 minutes, something like that. And used each filter twice without removing it from the pipe. So if it was going to expand, it would have expanded. Well, the interesting thing, you know, everything that I told you, and I hope I've made this obvious now, everything I told you is specific to this pipe, and your pipe might have different dimensions. So in your pipe, the Peterson filter might not fit. You know, in my pipe, the Peterson filter fits perfectly. Christian Bonapiper said that he has the same pipe, and I know he has the same pipe, I've seen it. He said that the Dr. Pearl filters, there's no way that he could wrap paper around it, it just wouldn't fit. So even the same pipe from the same manufacturer, factory made, there's enough variation in that bore that filters will or will not fit. But I think it's worth doing that simple test that I showed you. And put the filter in, put your finger over it, and draw through the stem and just see if you're getting any air to come through. If you are, try to put a wrap or 2 of just simple printer paper around it and slide it in and see if that seals it. And if it does, try smoking one that way. At least you know the filter's doing its job then. I didn't pack this full because I knew I was only going to be doing a 15-minute smoke. I hope I didn't underestimate what I need. Someone asked me about the flame on this in the comments of the last video. I think it was that. Maybe a different video, but someone asked how I do that, if I'd make a video on how to do it. I actually have it on my blog, and it's really simple. The trick is that you can see the wick is here in the through the center here, and when you buy them, normally the wick is set somewhere in the middle of this hole, the hole that is put through for the pipe lighters. It's usually the top of it is somewhere in the middle. I just extend it through this hole in the top, and then I trim it off, and that gives a much larger flame that I like. I don't know if it makes much of a difference in lighting. You know, this person was saying that you can draw the flame down and light easier. I don't know if that's true, but I just like it. I hate having a tiny flame and trying to like move it around and stuff. With this, it is just sort of hold it over and suck, and it works. And I have really been enjoying that little black leather lighter that I showed you that Christian was kind enough to give me. It's a butane soft flame, but it's the kind that come out at the side, so you can angle it right down into the pipe and light it. And I keep that up on the table next to the chair where I often smoke upstairs. I don't want to bring it down here because I'll lose it in the mess down here, or get glue on it or something. This, if I get glue on it, comes right off. But you can turn the flame up on that pretty high. I mean, it looks like you could use it to cut through a safe door. One thing I don't know if butane burns hotter than this is, I think, naphtha-based fuel. Be interesting to see, to check that out, because for folks that get tongue bite, most of the time you get tongue bite when you're doing relights, because that's the hottest that the pipe is ever going to be, and you're actually drawing that flame down into the tobacco. So it may be that, you know, a Zippo or matches or a butane lighter are burning at different temperatures, and one might be more or less likely to give you a tongue bite. I don't know, but it might be interesting to look into that. Five seconds. There we go. Oh, didn't turn it off. So, I thank you all for putting me up with me through that. I know that was not a terribly exciting video to watch. Now the problem is, I had not planned for this, but I'm going to have to actually let this cool down before I can disassemble it. So what I'm going to do is, just to aid that a bit, I'm going to empty out the tobacco. Move my ashtray over here. Actually, I planned that pretty well. There wasn't very much dottle left at all. Okay, so now we'll just wait for it to cool a bit. I don't know if we ever talked about why you're not supposed to take pipes apart when they're warm, but the reason is that, you know, everything expands a bit, and the fit of the tenon can be quite tight when it's hot, and you run the risk of breaking the shank or the tenon when you do that. The truth is, you can do it if you're careful. I don't think it produces any damage other than if you were to break it. So if you, in my opinion, and someone might disagree with me on this, I don't see any reason you can't take apart a hot pipe as long as you're very, very careful with it. But in general, it's good practice to just not do it. So I'm going to give this just a minute or two. The shank is relatively cool. The bowl's still hot, but we'll just give it a minute or two. And then we will have the results of our experiment. So obviously the first result of the experiment is that I was able to smoke the pipe just fine with that filter completely plugged. So there is no air passing through the filter. There couldn't be because it was sealed. And I was able to draw through that, approximately 1/8 inch gap that's there because of the gap is 1/8 inch, but the equivalent circle would be 1/8 of an inch. So it gives plenty of airflow through the filter, through the airway when the filter's in place. And like I was saying earlier with the straw analogy, there's just no way that you could draw air through that filter if you don't have a seal around it. Another way to think about it is if you had a cigar or a cigarette or something and you brought it up to your mouth but you didn't seal your lips on it and you breathed in. Now you got to be careful with this because there is going to be some smoke coming off the end. You'll probably draw that in. If you try to do something like that with a pipe, if you ever notice when a pipe's burning, you actually get a little bit of smoke that's just spontaneously coming out here. So if I were to do this, I would get smoke in my mouth, and actually if I do that I'm going to get smoke in my lungs and I would cough a lot. So you have to be careful how you perform that experiment, but you can imagine if you don't seal your lips on a cigar, you're not going to get a very good puff off the cigar. And it's the same thing here. If you're not sealed on that filter, you're not pulling anything through it. Alright, I think that is now cool enough, so I'm going to go ahead and disassemble it and we'll see what this looks like. Well, as you can see, the filter is brown. The end is quite brown. It is wet. It pretty much looks like a filter that's been used. No real difference there. The end is, hopefully you can see, still sealed there. I'm not going to put this to my lips and try to blow through it. I'm sorry, but I'm just not going to do that right now. But I think I've proven the point. So a sealed filter looks like it filtered, smokes like there's no filter in the pipe, but clearly nothing passed through this. It couldn't. It just sat in the airway and collected from the smoke stream as it passed over it, both liquid and smoke is, as I mentioned in an earlier video, smoke is composed of water vapor, particulates, and some soluble things like nicotine. And this is pulled from the airstream some of those things, but certainly not what you would be pulling out if you were to seal this in the airway, and if this were actually, if this end were actually open and you could draw through it. So I hope that that's convincing. I don't know what else I can do, so if you're not convinced by that, I'm sorry. We're just going to have to agree to disagree. If you are convinced by this, all you have to do is check the fit as I showed you, and I'll do it again. I've got that Peterson filter here, so I'll show you with that, so I don't have to put that dirty one back in. So you put the filter in and put your finger over the end, and you should get very little air through. If you're able to draw through it, I'm pulling the filter out now to show. If you're able to do that, it's not sealing. And if it's not sealing, just take some regular printer paper, cut a small piece, wrap it around, put it in, wrap it around twice, put it in. Do that until when you put your finger over the end, you cannot get any air through, or very minimal air through. And then try smoking it that way. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I apologize for the length of the video, but I wanted to make sure that you saw me do this in real time and that everyone knew that I wasn't pulling any tricks or anything. I think we've got our answer. So thank you. Appreciate your watching, your likes, your comments, and until we speak again, I will look forward to talking to you all again very soon. Goodbye now.